The most ethical yellow leader of all time, Nami still making 90% of players lose brain cells in an unexpected deck coming back into the meta. OP16 seems like it might be a movie. Here's my initial impressions on the best decks. Alright, first things first, we're going to start off with the S tier. So first of all, we got Teach. I think out of the new decks, Teach is the clear winner right now. I don't know if it's necessarily going to end up being the best deck, but the best two decks of the last format was both Nami and Enel. Teach can beat both, which is really, really solid. You're also going to see Rosie coming back into the meta here. And even though Rosie typically beats Teach, it's actually like a pretty winnable matchup as well. And I've also heard of Teach players being more confident into Yuji Luffy as of recently. So your worst matchup by far right now is probably like Black Yamato, and that deck seems to be fraudulent. Like even even my Japanese brethren, you know what I'm saying? They put Yamato at S tier at the start of the format, and they've already moved it all the way down to like B or something. The deck does seem pretty fraudulent so far. But yeah, I would put Teach as the one of the new set. Yeah, Teach is just one of the very, very strong new deck. It doesn't necessarily trigger sack as much as Nami does, although there's some strong triggers. But its late game plan is just very, very strong. 10 cost Teach essentially acts as if you had gained like 2 life. You get to negate one attacker, and you get to block with the leader. And the leader skill also being able to block anything for just 1 card is nuts. So it just has a lot of survivability, and the game just steamrolls in their favor as they continue to chain 10 cost Teaches, or they can even pivot to stuff like double Borsalino or just healing with Shiryu. It's a very flexible deck and pretty reliable yellow deck. Next up, we have Nami. So I was struggling to decide what I was going to put at the second best deck here, but I did just decide to put Nami for the time being. I think this deck's position will switch around depending on how good Teach actually ends up being in the meta. Teach fleeces Nami, like, for the most part. Like, 10 cost Teach being able to negate leader ability is nuts. 10 cost Teach being able to negate Robin is nuts, right? Because one of the reasons Robin is so dominant is because when it dies, you deal damage to your opponent, but Teach just straight up negates that, which is like amazing. So Nami's position is a little rough right now because it does lose to Teach, but Nami still has a pretty good position in the meta because it beats the new Yuji Luffy deck, which we'll talk about later. It beats Purple and Enel. In my opinion, I think Rosie beats Nami, but a lot of Nami players have been beating Rosie on Sim too, so you also have that going for it as well. So Nami's actually positioned pretty well if we ignore the fact that it gets fleeced by Teach, which every deck right now is going to have a bad matchup, so you have to pick and choose your poison. So for anybody that's like, oh, Nami can't be that high, loses to Teach, like, you got to pick your battles, man, you know what I mean? So there we go. Next up for the third best, we have Rosie. I'm very excited to see this deck back in the meta. If you guys know me, I was a Law fan back in the day. Won my first ever tournament with Law. I really like Rosie too. I actually didn't play Rosie the first time around where it was really good. I think I had just started playing the game again, so I was just playing Mihawk. But I definitely want to give this deck a go at least one tournament during the season. I think it's very solid. The Purple No matchup is a little rough, but it's actually possible to make it work if you like starve them and you play like very proper. It's actually possible to win that matchup. In terms of the yellow decks, I'd say it goes like 50-50 into slightly favored against both Teach and Nami. I feel like I'm pretty solid against both of those decks right now, so I think Rosie's fairly positioned in the meta. The Yuji Luffy matchup, or blue-green, whatever you want to call it, can get difficult, but I think if you go first, you can actually win the matchup a lot of the time. It really depends on how much Luna and stun events are going to be playing in the meta, but I think this deck is naturally very strong and it's positioned very well in the meta. For the fourth best deck, Enel. I was initially worried it was going to be controversial of me to put this in S tier, but it seems like a lot of people agree that this deck is obviously still good. I know going into this meta, a lot of people had fears about Enel. They were telling me like, yo, Enel's dead now because Enel already lost to Nami. Nami got buffed. Nami now has like what, Gaudino and the new A-Cost Teach, and then they were also saying it gets fleeced by Teach. So people were very worried about Enel's checking this meta. But honestly, this Enel kind of reminds me of like, so when I was going into nationals and I played BY Luffy, I was testing it in my server, and I had a lot of people like because I didn't say what deck I was playing. I had a lot of people being like, oh, no way Cross is playing this deck. BY Luffy loses to Shanks, loses to Bonnie, loses to Purple Luffy, it loses to Teach, etc. And right now in the meta, Purple No feels like it's kind of like how BY Luffy was back then. And let me elaborate. So back then, those were like, all those matchups I just mentioned for BY Luffy were like perceived bad matchups. But like, if you played very skillfully, you could actually beat like all of those matches minus Teach. Teach is like pretty difficult, but even then, Teach I beat a few times in like unofficial tournaments and stuff as well. Purple Enel feels like it's in the same position where if you have the right deck list, you play very skillfully. You can actually beat Teach. I feel like right now, I feel like Teach is like 50-50 at worst, to be honest. Nami's a bit unfavored, but I think if things go right, especially if you go first, you can definitely still beat Nami. And then Rosie here is obviously like already a favorite matchup as well. So I think Purple Enel, it's pretty much just if you draw well enough and you play very skillfully, I think it's actually in a pretty solid position right now. Yes, on paper you do lose to like Teach and Nami, but I think those are both winnable matchups. I just played in the case tournament yesterday. I managed to beat 2 Teach, which was nice. I did lose to Nami, but like I literally drew unplayable. But do note, like, if you're not playing Purple Enel very solid, then it might be bad. Like it might be in like B tier, to be honest. I've been seeing Purple Enel players used to Yuji, Luffy. Like, obviously, you're going to lose to Teach if you don't know what you're doing. You're going to lose to Nami if you don't know that matchup. You could even lose to Rosie if you don't know that matchup. So, yeah, this is Purple Enel right now is just a matter of knowing your stuff, to be honest. All right, next up, Wildcard. I don't know why this is named Dark Horse. I want to call it Wildcard. So, one of the wild cards I put is Yuji, Luffy. It seems like a lot of people right now are actually agreeing that this deck is good, which I was surprised because, like, I feel like initially people were like, "Oh, it loses to Nami," but you know, thankfully we started using our brains and realizing everything is bad matchups. So shout out y'all. Shout out everybody for realizing Yuji Luffy is better than that. But I think Yuji Luffy is a wild card because depending on how the meta stabilizes, I actually think that this deck could easily be an S tier. I'm not sure if this is a controversial take or not, but I think Yuji Luffy is really good into Teach. You're actually pretty good into Rosie as well, at least if you win die roll. I'm not sure how often you win off the dice roll, but you're pretty good into Rosie. They said the Nami matchup was chopped cheese, kind of how like people say Yamato's chopped against Nami, but it's actually not that bad. Like if you're playing Yuji Luffy, if you chain Boas and you take advantage of your 6 cost of Brooks, I actually think that that the matchup is very, very playable. Maybe I'm overestimating the deck into the matchup. I haven't tested against Nami with 4 Gaudino yet, so maybe that makes it a little bit rougher for Yuji Luffy, maybe. But the matchup has been pretty solid so far, so I do think this is a wild card in the meta. You do lose to Purple Enel, but you know, one of my friends in Asia, he actually beat a Purple Enel recently in a tournament, and he told me he feels like he's 50-50 into Purple Enel, so that's a matchup I need to test a little bit more, but I do think this deck could easily move up to S tier. Next up, Lucy. So Lucy is also positioned pretty well in the meta right now. So Lucy, of course, you do still lose to Purple Enel. I think your Rosie matchup is like pretty sketchy as well. I know some Lucy players are adding in Jozu to kind of help hedge that matchup, but it's still questionable. But the main selling point of Lucy right now is you dominate these yellow decks. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like if you're worried about yellow, only yellow, like you can easily just play Lucy. If people think Purple Enel is bad or they go off of it, that also strengthens Lucy, right? Like I feel like surprisingly enough during OP16, right? That's the set we were just in. There were already like a lot of people that weren't even playing Purple Enel. Like sure, Purple Enel won again in Canada, but like if you look at like the people who just won the recent Cali tournament, there was like no Purple Enel. If you walked around Canada, low key, they're like, if you played Swiss in Canada, you probably, chances are you didn't play against that many Purple Enel in Swiss. Like, it was already not too popular. Well, like, it was popular in OP15, obviously, but, like, I'm not quite sure that it was even the most popular deck. And now we're going into OP16, where now we have Teach, which is, like, a new bad matchup. And we just have other decks that people can switch to in case they have Purple Enel fatigue. So, basically what I'm getting at is I think Purple Enel is going to be less popular. Yellow is probably just going to be not more popular. If like, yeah, yellow's probably just gonna be more popular, and Lucy dominates both of these yellow decks. So I do still think Lucy has concerns into Purple Enel. I'm not sure your Yuji Luffy matchup is. I think Yuji Luffy is favored, but I'm not entirely sure. And then I know Rosie is like relatively favored as well, but fuck these yellow players, man. Honestly, like, let's like, yeah. I need some of y'all to play Lucy and just grief them because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. All right, next up we're going up to A tier. This is going to go by a little bit faster because I care a little less about these decks. Well, except for okay, look, RG Luffy. I was gonna say I care less about this deck, but shout out my boy Rick Master Flash. You know what I mean, for making it to you know, just going crazy with RG Luffy, making it to Worlds, and then he even won a Treasure Cup recently, like a week or two ago. So shout out him. I think RG Luffy, it's just a deck that's kind of like 50-50 into everything. I don't think it's quite as powerful as the S tier decks right now. Not even sure if it's as well positioned as like Yuji or like Lucy as a meta call, but I think it's a very solid deck, so I'm going to give it its flowers, put it in A tier. Maybe Rickmaster finds a way to go crazy with it again. Next up, this might be controversial, Shanks. So if you look at the sim stats recently, it's been terrible, man. Like, I think Shanks was literally the only deck with all red. like yo, like this deck was losing to literally everything. But I think Shanks is I think thanks to the new Ben Beckman card, it's actually not that bad right now. I think it's a deck that's hard to build, and people are often very bad at like optimizing combat math and whatnot. So I think there's a chance that those sim stats are a little off because people are just terrible at building and playing Shanks. The reason I think this is relatively well positioned right now is because similar to Lucy, I think you're actually pretty decent into yellow. Like Nami, I think you should have just beat. Teach is like a sketchy matchup, but if you build like a more control oriented build where you're like popping the board and stuff, I actually think it's fairly solid. Even against Rosie, I think Ben Beckman is very, very solid against Rosie. And being able to pop their Sakazukis with 10 cost Shanks is very nice. Like, that matchup's kind of a race, but it's a race I think you can potentially win. Shanks is horrible into Purple Enel, though, I will say. Like, as long as Purple Enel is just, like, controlling Shanks' board, like, it's grits. You know what I mean? And then I think Shanks is also, like, kind of point to Yuji Luffy as well. Personally, I think it's favored into Lucy. This is up to debate. I was talking to my friend. He's saying Lucy's fine. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, I think this is pretty decent here. Like, I think you can beat Nami. I think you can get it against Teach on the right list. I think you can get it against Rosie, but you know, you are gonna lose to Purple No, Yuji. And if Lucy's our meta call, I personally think you beat Lucy, but this is a deck that needs to be explored more. Like Shanks here is like my controversial pick. Damn, I said I was gonna go faster. All right, let me speed it up. Next up, Mihawk. So, not gonna lie, I was just running out of decks to put in A tier, so I was like, all right, bro, like, you know, Mihawk is always pretty solid, which, it is. Like, Mihawk is probably in a similar position as last set. You know, you beat Nami, which is good. I haven't played Mihawk into new Rosie. Like, Mihawk is, ever since Mihawk has switched to the stun package, it's been favored into Rosie, but with the addition of Sakazuki, maybe this matchup's more rough. I'm not actually sure, to be honest. I think Yuji is slightly unfavored as well. Mihawk can be Lucy. This matchup's like a true 50-50, so it's hard to say. But Mihawk is unfavored into Purple now, and this deck is also terrible into BY Teach. So maybe I'm coping by putting it this high. Like, it wasn't like in the same position as last set, but like a little worse. So I might put it at the bottom of A tier. I still think it's an A tier level deck for sure, but yeah, I guess it is just in a worse position. All right, next up, UP Luffy. Hey, for you UP Luffy fans, I personally think it's an A tier deck right now. Sammy Wang 707, his landlord, got top 32 with this deck last Canada. He was playing on stream a lot. Maybe y'all seen him. And this deck only gets better this set. The addition of Gaudino is actually huge for this deck. Just a lot more survivability, a lot more hand size. Nuts. Like, Gaudino alone has brought attention to this deck again. Once again, I don't think it's quite as powerful as the S tier decks, but I do think if it's a deck that you just cope, you might be able to get there with it. Next up, Black Yamato. I think this deck is a fraudulent deck, but I have to give credit where credit's due. I still think it's still an A tier, especially if Teach ends up becoming the best deck. I think Yamato is very, very solid into Teach, but I think Yamato just quite doesn't get there against like Nami, against Purple and now I haven't played the Yuji Yamato matchup. Wouldn't be surprised if Yuji wins. Do you know how Yamato versus Lucy is?
The Yamato's probably like favorite. It's like 55-45.
Okay, 55-45, not bad. And then yeah, I don't know how Yamato Rosie is either. But I don't know. Look, man, we all know, like, if you know me back in the day, Yamato cost me a lot of cereals. Like right now I have like 9 cereals. If I didn't play Yamato, shit, I'd have at least 10 cereals, you know, humble estimate. I have at least 10 cereals. So, you know, anything Yamato, it's kind of the boogeyman in me. I try to stay away from it. But if y'all are coping Yamato, let me know how that goes, man. I'm done. Never again. But lastly, for A tier, we got Red Blue Ace. Yeah, Ace is just always a solid deck in the meta. Yeah, I don't know. I just put an A tier because it's a solid deck, and people always just say, fuck it, I'm going to play Ace, and they play Ace. In terms of like position in the meta, I feel like Ace's deck list needs to change, right? Like my friend Holden Miller, he's been doing good in Chinorskos with Rosie. He's been beating Ace with Rosie. Like, I played Teach Ace the other day. That matchup is horrible. That matchup is really bad. And then you already lose to Enel. Like, honestly, Ace is in a similar position to Miyok right now, where it's like, I feel like its position like only got worse. It does beat Yuji Luffy though, which I think is very, very solid. But I wouldn't be surprised if Yuji Luffy even has a plan to, manage to beat Ace by utilizing like Boa's Brooks. So I don't know. Like, these two decks, like, honestly, you could argue are probably at the top of B, but just due to like them fundamentally being powerful decks, I just have them in A right now. But their position in the meta isn't necessarily the best right now. For top of B, I have Mono Red Ace. I'm not gonna lie, I want to put this in A tier so bad, but I need somebody to show a result with it first, and then we can do it. This deck is actually a very solid aggro deck. Like, it's probably the best red deck we've had in a minute. A mono red deck, anyways. And yeah, it's just very strong. You can kind of just get there sometimes. Like, the Marco card, the new Marco, is very, very annoying for Enel to deal with, because especially if Enel like isn't drawing blockers or they're on a bad draw, you can kind of rush them down. Even the ACOS Nugget is very solid against Enel, because you can like rush your opponent down while just being able to kill a Nugget. Like, it's honestly like kind of ridiculous. Like, it's a pretty neat aggro deck. I was playing against my Awakened TCG. I was beating him a decent amount on Teach. I don't know if he was just getting caught off guard or whatnot, but like, I was able to beat Teach. I was beating some Namis too. I don't know. Like, low key, I feel like if you queue this mono red Ace deck, you might, like, people might just not be ready for it. Like, I almost lost it around one of the case tournament yesterday, because like, even though I've been playing the deck, I just forgot like what this thing was doing. Like, he swung 7 with leader, and then he's like, it's actually non-double attack, and I was like, what? And like, that almost killed me. I didn't know the Marco calls itself back. I don't know. This is a neat aggro deck that also catches people off guard, because there's like a lot of text on it. So actually, I think it's a pretty decent deck to try to pick up and play. Next up, we have Black Crocodile. Shout out Kevin. I mean, there's two Kevins that are really good. There's Kevin Zhao. Is it Kevin Zhao and Kevin Joe or Zoe? Fuck, I don't know how to pronounce it, bro. But yo, shout out Kevin for being a really good Crocodile player. Yeah, I think Crocodile is just probably higher than these other decks in B. Yeah. This is vibes right now. I'm not gonna lie, because like, well, yeah, when I get it's vibes right now. But Crocodile, it should be up here. I don't think there's another deck that's really better than it here in this slot. Maybe you could argue new Boa it's comparable, but nah, honestly, I would just put Crocodile ahead. But I do think this mono red Ace deck is just better than Crocodile right now. But yeah, speaking of next up, Boa, yeah, Boa's just Boa, man. I mean, Boa got the new ACOS Teach, which I'm not even sure if they're 100% playing, but it's actually pretty solid in the deck. Yeah, Boa is honestly just like a fun yellow deck right now. Nothing too crazy. I don't think it really holds much of a candle to like A or S tier, but I think it's still worth mentioning in B. Blue Purple Sanji. I also think this deck is actually a really good B tier deck that just needs to be built correctly. I was playing this deck for fun the other day. It's actually performing pretty well with it. The only reason I put it here is because it's controversial, but realistically, I think it's like only a little worse than Ace, if not like a little bit better. But yeah, maybe I'll make a UP Sanji video in the future or something. Sengoku, man, I wanted this deck to be good, man. Like, I thought people were just tripping, like they didn't have the right Sengoku list, but like this deck kind of blows. Like, it's rough. Like, your early game, despite calling out 3 units, your early game is just so bad. You just don't apply any pressure. So despite calling out 3 units, it's like, yo, like, you spent the first 3-4 turns not applying any pressure, and then like you kind of run out of Dawn. It's difficult to use Borsalino to block because you're just running out of Dawn. I don't know. This deck's like really bad into the aggro decks. I thought the no matchup would be good, but surprisingly enough, Enel kind of just runs at you fast with like the 1-drops, 6-drop Enel. Like, it's hard, man. Like, I don't know. I think Sengoku, I might even put this deck in C, bro. I just know there's some people who cope in this deck, so I don't want to break your heart. Maybe there's a vision, maybe there's something I'm missing, but man, it's rough right now for Sengoku, I can't lie. Next up, Bell Luffy. Shout out Zent. Zent's been going crazy with Bell Luffy. Even won either a TC or a regional with it in OP16. He's been going crazy with it. I think Bell is definitely just worse in this format now. I think the new second best yellow deck is likely Teach. I wouldn't be surprised if Teach also just stunts on this deck. Like yeah, the days of Bell Luffy are over, but let's put it ahead of Sengoku. Like let's not get ahead of ourselves. I might even put it ahead of Boa, but yeah, that's about as far as it goes. And there's this new 6K power Red Green Luffy deck. I don't know much about it. I played it a little bit for fun. I was actually winning some games on it, but I don't know. There's just the deck. It seems kind of poor, bro. Like there's it just doesn't feel strong. Like I'm winning games with this deck. I'm like, all right, yeah, my opponents are probably just fucking up. Like, just doesn't seem that strong. And then for the last two decks here, Buggy's also in a weird position for me right now. I think this deck is not the greatest, but you know, it did get top 4 in a Chinois Cup the other day, so at the very least I'll have to put it in B tier. If somebody can crack a list for Buggy, hey, let me know, man, because I would like to play some Buggy for fun. But yeah, it's just it just doesn't seem that strong, to be honest. Like the leader effect is nice. I do like you get to like replace bodies out and stuff like that. You know, maybe it's better into like purple now than I actually imagine, but I imagine you just struggle a lot like into like Nami, Teach, Rosie. I don't know. I haven't tested it too much, as I said, but my friend has been playing it like during the week, all week, and he's just been getting clapped up. Like I think he also almost lost to Don Krieg, and it's like, you know, if we're losing to Don Krieg, what are we doing, man? And then lastly, we have Red Yellow Bonnie. I'm gonna put this deck in D. I want to put this deck in F. I'm just gonna be a little nice for, you know, the Bonnie fans. I'm gonna put it in D. I don't know why people play this deck, bro. Like, I'm gonna just leave it at that, man. But yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. All right, guys, that's it for my tier list. Thanks for everybody who tuned in. Obviously, this is just the start of meta tier list, so you know some opinions might be a little off and whatnot. Let me know what you guys think about what you guys think are the best decks and what y'all disagree with in this tier list. It's good to see y'all again. We'll try to get, you know, some more videos going out. But that's what I always say. So, you know, I guess we'll really see. And with that being said, I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.